Hello children, in this video we will be doing the 8th lesson in geography, that is economy and occupations. So children, in this lesson we will be learning about the economy of both the countries, that is India and Brazil, as well as the occupations, like which type of occupations have been practiced in both the countries. Is it primary, secondary or the tertiary? In economy, we are going to see what is the economy playing in both the countries. Which one is the highest, which one is the lowest, how are they performing in their respective economies. Now children, in front of you, you can see a graph which is showing the gross national incomes from the year 1960 to 2016. It is showing in US dollars. So what is GNI? GNI was previously known as GNP, that is Gross National Product, which is now GNI, that is Gross National Income. So it is the total domestic and foreign output claimed by residents of a particular country. So children, you all can see in this graph we have the countries Brazil, India and USA. So looking at the graph, you can see that the highest income that is being removed out is in USA, that is around approximately 1,800 million US dollars. So when you look at the graph, you can just see that the green one, the green graph is always the highest, which is the American one. So comparing India and Brazil, okay, which country has a higher income? So if you look at it, we can see that India is having a higher income compared to Brazil. So what is the difference between the GNP of Brazil and India in 2016? So the difference is approximately like 30 to 40 million US dollars. So if you see the graph, we can see some places India is a little bit higher than Brazil, and in some places we can see Brazil is higher than India. But mostly if you go to see, the developed nation USA is leading in almost every year or decade. Now moving ahead, we have a table which is showing the ownership of various sectors. So last year we have studied about the 3 types of economies, that is capitalistic, socialistic and mixed economy. So even in Brazil and India, both the countries are practicing some kind of economy. So which is that economy? So both the countries have adopted a mixed type of economy, that is socialistic as well as some part of capitalistic. Both are having socialist and private companies. So looking at this table, you can see banking in Brazil, it is adopted or is being functioned in both, that is private as well as the public. So in India also we have private banks as well as public banks. Railways in Brazil, it is private and public. In India we have largely public, it is largely operated by the government. Airways in Brazil, it is private public. In India we have largely it is private and a little bit of public. And electricity in India, it is private and public both. Iron and steel, both, that is private and public. Health, that is medical, it is adopted by both. We have a private hospital as well as a public hospital. Education is largely private. Most of the institutions are private and we also have public. Last one is telecommunication, which is largely owned by private companies and also some part of it is owned by the public, that is the government. So children, as we see both the comparisons between both the countries, we can see that both the countries have adopted the economy mixed, okay, public as well as private. Now you can see a pie chart which is showing the contribution of sectors of GDP and percentage of population engaged in various sectors for both the countries. Now, if we look at the contribution of sectors in GDP, you can see that in Brazil, 67%, okay, 67% is in the tertiary side, okay, that is tertiary occupation, whereas 5.5 is for the primary and 27.5 is for the secondary. So you all can see in Brazil that the tertiary occupation is the highest, whereas in India you can see that tertiary is around 57, which is little bit lesser than Brazil, but still it is highest among the other occupations. Primary is around 17 and secondary is around 26. So looking at the percentage of population engaged in various sectors, so here we have 71 in Brazil and 26.9 in India for tertiary. Whereas for primary we have 10 in Brazil and 48.8 in India. So you can see in comparison with Brazil, India is having more people engaged in the primary occupation, okay, that is around 48.8%. And the last one, secondary occupation, we have in Brazil it is around 19%, whereas in India we have 24.3%. So looking at this, we can say that Brazil is not an agrarian country, whereas India is an agrarian country, because in India we have people who practice primary or agriculture towards a extreme limit. So we saw in this graph that Brazil is one of the world's giants in mining, agriculture and manufacturing, and it has a strong and rapidly growing service sector, that is a tertiary sector. On the other hand, India is still dependent on agriculture. As we saw in the graph, we have large part of people or population depend on the primary occupation, though service sector is also increasing in India. Like the Indian economy, the Brazilian economy is also a mixed, as I told you earlier. Both the Indian and Brazilian economies are developing. Their per capita incomes are very less as compared to the developed country, that is the USA. It is interesting to note that though India has a higher national income as compared to Brazil, but the per capita income of India is lower. So what may be the reason? The reason is that the population is massive in India as compared to Brazil. Brazil has very less population than India. So that is why the per capita income of India is lower than that of Brazil. The United States, which is there shown in, we saw it in the previous graph as well as in this pie chart, is a developed nation. So the population in that nation is well educated. It also has many strengths, like they have modern technology, they have everything that is advanced. This country is far ahead than in Brazil and India in terms of national per capita. So that is why you can see they exceed in all the things. India and Brazil are developing countries. These countries may be, behind in certain things, but still they are trying and progressing in the fields of technology, education and industry. The national per capita income of both the countries is low. India's per capita income seems to be even lower, as India's size is very, very large. Okay, because it is larger, that is why the per capita income is lower, as the population is massive. Now we will see the agriculture, okay, like what type of products and the minings that is there in Brazil. So in Brazil, agriculture is the main occupation of people living in the highlands, okay, the people living near the highlands and near the coastal areas. So the favorable climate and topography make it possible for growing a variety of crops, like we have rice, maize are the main crops, like how in India we have rice and jawar, bajra and wheat. So in Brazil, their main or staple food is rice and maize. Production of maize is largely concentrated in the central part. So if you look at this map, you can see maize is largely produced in the central part due to favorable climate and soil. Commercial crops like coffee, cocoa, rubber, soya and sugarcane are cultivated on a very large scale. Brazil is the largest exporter of coffee and soya bean in the world. The major states growing coffee are Minas Gerais and Sao Paulo. Besides these crops, there are other crops also, like production of fruits like bananas, pineapples, oranges and other citrus fruits. There are also cattle, okay, like sheep, goats, which are reared in the savanna grasslands in the southern part of the country. So consequently, obviously, if there is cattle, then there is meat industry and dairy products are also available or produced in a large scale. Now looking at the mining point of view, now just look at the index. We have manganese, bauxite, iron, coal, that is mined from the country. So the eastern part of Brazil, okay, towards the east, it is rich in various type of minerals like iron ore, manganese, nickel, copper, bauxite, tungsten, diamonds, etc. So inaccessibility, lack of knowledge of potential reserves of resources, dense forest are the major factors which have led to the limitations of mining in the interior parts of the country. Nevertheless, because of the increasing demand in the country, mining work has developed well in the highland region. Now we will see the fishing in Brazil, okay, which type of fishes are found, the marine fishing, the ocean fishing. So Brazil has a sea coast of around 7,400 kilometers and has excellent fishing grounds off the South Atlantic coast. So because of the meeting of the warm Brazil current and the cold Falkland current off the coast of southeast Brazil, it makes fishing very good there. Okay, many fishes breed and because of which there can be good fishing done. So traditionally, fishing has been carried on by small group of individual fishermen using the old techniques, that is a primitive techniques and equipments. But now there are large vessels that are being used. You all might have seen that on geographical channel, where they use big vessels to do fishing, where a huge quantity of fishes are being caught. And the fishes that are being fished out are swordfish, shrimp, lobster, sardines. They are mainly caught in Brazil. The fish resources of the rivers like the Amazon River are not exploited much. They are not fished a lot. Why? Because fishing only takes place in a small scale, because there it is very inaccessible due to flooding, constant flooding and rainfall. That is why it is not exploited there a lot. So children, we will end this video here. The next or the remaining part of the lesson will be explained in another video. Take care.